Punk bass is often unfairly overlooked or dismissed as being much simpler than it really is. If your first thought when you think of this style is root note bass lines, you're missing out on a lot of what the genre has to offer. So let's take a look at some key techniques and examples from the classics to the more obscure and explore a few ideas you can use in your own bassline creations. One nice thing about the vast majority of punk is that the bass tends to be very upfront in the mix, so it's often easy to make out even if you're still adjusting to picking out the bass in your favourite songs.
You hear that sound? You hear that sound? Like fingers scratching.
One thing that's especially noticeable is the use of chords. Although chords aren't overly common in many styles of bass playing, they're a real staple when it comes to punk and punk-adjacent music. They also have many uses, from thickening up and filling out the mix, to adding more harmonic flavour to simple sections of a song. Adding in some basic power chords in place of root notes can instantly fill out your low end whenever you need that extra bit of density or heaviness. Although we tend to refer to them as chords, they're mostly made up of dyads, meaning a pair of two notes played together, which are then commonly thought of as two-note chords. Learning a few of these easy shapes will give you a solid starting point for how you can swap out some basic root note bass lines for their two-note chord equivalents. Some commonly used examples are a power chord or fifth, where you take your root note and add the fifth underneath. A nice alternative to this is the inverted shape, where you take your root note and place it above the fifth, or the fifth below the root note, depending on how you look at it. The fifth now becomes the bass note, the lowest pitch of the chord. You can do the same with thirds too. That shape is made by starting with a root note and then adding the major or minor third to it. You can again invert this, just like with the power chord shape, and end up with this sound that's common across many punk styles. Here are a few great examples of these shapes being used. The next technique goes hand in hand with the previous one, arpeggios. This is where you take your chord shapes but pick the notes individually rather than strumming them. Once you've got a few of these shapes down, you can start to combine the two. A nice technique to add in here is to keep the root note consistent, but alter the second note around it to add more harmonic flavour. You could start out picking a power chord shape, but then move the second note up or down the fretboard to find what fits. Here are a few examples of that being done. Similarly, you could do the opposite. Keep the second note consistent but move the root note around it. This gives a sense of familiarity as you're hearing one note drone out while the lower harmony moves beneath it. This idea is the basis of Alkaline Trio's song You've Got So Far to Go. You could also go for more complex three-note shapes, which would be considered proper chords for a richer sound. These often work better when played higher up on the neck, as playing a lot of notes lower down on the neck at once can start to sound muddy on bass. A great example of this can be found in Green Day's song No One Knows. Walking bass lines are another popular technique across many styles of punk. They help connect chord progressions by moving up and down the fretboard, giving the music a steady sense of motion. They're especially common in styles like ska punk, where the rhythm guitar takes a more laid-back, percussive role, leaving the bass to really dominate and hold down the song's underlying harmony. They work by adding notes between the main root notes of a chord progression. Say you had a progression of A, D, and E. Instead of just playing the root notes, you'd connect them by moving up or down the scale. Typically, you'd hit the root notes on the downbeats in line with the chord changes, then fill in the gaps with passing notes. Ascending or descending in quarter notes is common, but you can experiment with whatever approach best suits your track, like throwing in octaves, hammer-ons, pull-offs, and so on. You'll also hear plenty of walking bass lines in more straight-ahead punk songs with players like Matt Freeman and Paul Simonon making great use of the technique. A fun way to practice this, similar to my previous example, is by writing a walking line for one of your favourite songs that has a simpler bass part. Experiment and see how a busier, more melodic line can change the feel of a song you're used to hearing with a more straightforward bass approach. Another great technique many punk bands used was layering 2 or more bass tracks on top of each other to create a really unique sound. If you'd like to learn how to do that, watch this video next.